Done.
Finally. Oh my goodness. You have to love it when technology just decides to go sideways on you.
Yes, I know. It's for once it's on your end and not on my usually
Occasionally it's on my end. It hasn't been on my end for a while, but
that's true.
it has occasionally been on my end. So we are behind today, and we apologize for the fact that we are not on our usual time frame because we didn't make it on at 12:15, but at least we're here, and that's
We
what
are.
counts. So, if anybody's with us today, please let us know by saying hey in the chat. And if we are talking about something and you want to chime in or ask a question, we would love to entertain your questions, whether you are here with us live now or whether you're watching the video later. We are more than happy to entertain any questions you have. Wouldn't you say, Jeff?
Yes.
Yeah,
We are happy to do that.
we are so happy. So today we are talking about learning the skills of emotional intelligence. And this is something that it's really interesting. It's having a resurgence. Emotional intelligence is having a resurgence. It was really hot back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Um, and then kind of went by the wayside. And now interestingly enough, it's not surprising actually, but interestingly, it has um, taken a resurgence, and it's a good thing in my world that it's had a resurgence because this helps us to focus on the relationships and interactions between people, which, quite honestly, are how we get things done. Yes, there are tasks we need to accomplish. But if you don't have the relationships with people and know how to interact with others in ways to get things done, not by using people, but by finding ways to work together to accomplish the vision that your company has, then you're really going to struggle to get where you need to go. So, emotional intelligence is a set of skills and competencies to help you get there. So I thought today that we'd just kind of go through the list and talk a little bit about what are these skills and where are we on them and what might we need to be finding a way to learn a little bit more about. And I just realized that I got so much light coming through the window and I'm on a different camera than usual. So my lighting is really off a little bit. Sorry, folks, we're just going to have to go with it. It is what it is. We're here. Well, let's
Yeah,
focus on the bright side.
we're here. It works. And
Yeah,
it is sunny outside today in Ohio, which is always and it's going to be warm. So
I
we'll take
know. We're going to have the greatest week. And I know we're kind of off topic when we say this, but I don't know about you, but I am really embracing this week. And I bet you are too, as somebody who goes to practice in the afternoon with the lacrosse team. You're probably really happy about the weather forecast this week.
yes, it's going to be absolutely beautiful this week. And
Yeah.
I'm here for every minute of it.
Yay. That is awesome. I'm excited for you, Jeff. So, and I'm sure all of our viewers and listeners are happy for you too, because who doesn't want to be happy for somebody else, which is actually kind of part of the whole emotional intelligence and the domains and competencies. That's actually not the first one, but it comes into the whole process.
Yeah.
So our first um, competency is emotional self-awareness. And just as a heads up, we'll be digging into this a whole lot more in the month of May. But it's really interesting about emotional self awareness. And we may have talked a little bit about this last week. I can't remember. We talked about the wake you leave
Yeah.
and being aware of your emotions. But the fact that um, most people have a very narrow band of being able to identify their emotions really means this is an area where learning some skills let's put it this way. A little bit of learning will go a long way,
Yeah.
because if you can only identify, and this is what the research says at this point. The only emotional buckets that people can identify are mad, glad, and sad. That is a very narrow number. That's 3. And there are a multitude of emotions that we can experience that go way beyond mad, glad, or sad. It's a good start to know whether you're mad, glad, or sad. That's a plus.
Yes. It's a
But
starting point.
you got to start somewhere. However, if you start learning if you start uncovering the ability to express your emotions, or even if you don't express them, because sometimes you're not in the right space to express the emotion. I mean, you may be flabbergasted at what someone just said to you, but probably saying, I am flabbergasted by that, depending on who the person is who said it. I mean, if my husband says something and I'm flabbergasted, if you say something and I'm flabbergasted, I will probably say, wow, I am really flabbergasted that you said that, Jeff. Help me understand. There are other people that's saying, wow, I am really flabbergasted that you said that. I cannot believe that. It's not going to get us anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, if I say that to somebody when I'm on the phone with the electric company, I don't know, as an example, I'm not sure that would be received in the way I want it to be received. So you have to know your audience in
Yeah.
how you're expressing your emotions, which is part of the next skill that is part of the demands and competencies for emotional intelligence, and that is emotional self-control. One that I don't know about you, Jeff, but it is an ongoing process of development for me.
I think it is a common area of development for a number of people. We'll put it that way.
The more self-aware people are working on it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I will say that I'm a whole lot better at it today than I was 20 years ago or 30 years ago. But, there are still moments when it's like, I wish I could put those words back into my mouth, because the way they came out is not going to be productive in the conversation.
I think we have all been there. And
Yeah.
sometimes you realize it after you've already said it.
Which is the unfortunate moment.
Yes.
However,
Where it seems like a good idea, but it's a short trip from here to here and it just comes out.
Oh, so painfully true. Excuse me, my filters and my prefrontal cortex were not working in that moment, so I have to beg your forgiveness. And let's start again.
Yep.
Which kind of brings us to the next competency, which is adaptability. So as I was thinking about adaptability, the other word that came into my head was agility. Because if you're adaptable, and agility is a huge word today in today's business world, business, nonprofit, doesn't matter what area you're in, agility is important.
Yeah.
So I looked up the definition of both of these words, and forgive me because I got to look to the side to read them to you. But adaptability is the ability to adjust to different conditions and circumstances. Well, heaven only knows that we have practiced adaptability at levels never seen before never seen before in our lifetime. Let's phrase it that way. Over the last 3 years on so many levels. And we are constantly in this, I think of this as being on a balance board, which kind of leans itself into the agility thing too. But we're constantly on this balance board of trying to figure out where we are and how we need to adapt to the circumstances and conditions in our business. What's going on with our customer? What's going on with our vendors? What's going on with our team? We're constantly having to be attuned to that.
Yeah.
So then I'm sorry, you're going to say something.
I was just going to say the balance board is a really good example because there's always these little shifts that you're making to stay balanced, right?
Yeah, ever so slow. And it doesn't have to be a big shift that makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to know and be attuned to what it is, where you need to make that shift. And if you think about it from the balance board perspective, it's moving your body ever so slightly. And you have to have the body awareness to know that, which kind of ties right into the whole emotional self-awareness thing. It's all interrelated.
It is.
It's just amazing.
Very interrelated.
Yeah, true. So agility is the power to move quickly, and the power to move quickly, or nimbleness. That's definition number 1. Definition number 2 is the ability to think and draw conclusions quickly. Another word for that is intellectual acuity. So those two things are
the big words. Look at you with the big words today. Toilet paper word of the day.
I didn't do that intentionally, but I am like throwing the big words out there, aren't I?
You are. I'm impressed.
It is my job to make us look really intelligent today.
And it's my job just to take it down, dumb it down a few notches with toilet paper word of the day references. I'll be here for the next 30 minutes. Please remember to tip your waiters and waitresses this afternoon.
Okay, well, we are talking about some really important things here. And you're going to love the next one, Jeff, especially in light of what you just said.
Oh, boy.
Actually, the next two are really good. An achievement orientation, which is why we have toilet paper word of the day. That is really in the achievement orientation, Jeff.
It is. It is.
Great.
Yeah, I didn't even know that's what you were going to say. I just, we're on the same wavelength.
Apparently. But having let's face it. If you don't care about moving the business forward, achieving your goals, then you don't really care about how emotional intelligence is going to impact your team. Yeah. And last week you told a story about somebody who came in and just, blew everybody else out of the water because they didn't know how to manage themselves, basically. Let's just phrase it that way. They did not have an achievement orientation that was going to get them where they wanted to go. They may have made progress on occasion, but they had no idea of the opportunity they were squandering by acting as they did.
Yeah.
And to be perfectly honest with you, I really feel sorry for somebody who is doing that to themselves because they can't see what others are seeing. And that's going to come up as we move forward.
Yeah.
So far we've had emotional self-awareness, emotional self-control, adaptability, which we tagged alongside there, agility, and then an achievement orientation. And the next thing is a positive outlook. Do you believe we can get there?
Yeah.
Do you believe that interacting with the other people on your team and with your vendors and with your customers is going to get you where you need to go? My question of the person we were talking about that in that story last week is, I wonder what that person's outlook was. Did they have some positivity in them, or did they believe that the only way to get something done was to beat people over the head? Which is not a positive outlook, just for the record.
No, not at all. I would guess that it was the latter for that person, because that behavior was a constant behavior, right? It's not, you just had a bad day and, we're off. It was a pretty constant view.
Which is why people didn't want to work with that person.
Yeah.
Amazingly enough.
Shocking, huh?
So and that kind of underscores, not kind of, but that does underscore why you want to learn these skills of emotional intelligence, because emotional intelligence will draw people to you, where
Absolutely.
the behavior of this person that we talked about last week, people might want to go back and listen to last week's live stream. It's not going to draw people to you. It is going to repel people. So if your goal is to try to not get anybody to work with you, then, be negative, be prickly, be unpleasant, blame other people. We could put a whole lot of words in there, but a positive outlook, a belief that where you want to go is possible, is a definite part of emotional intelligence.
Oh yeah, makes a world of difference too, and just the results that you get, and I'd say, the people and things that you attract to your business and to you makes a huge difference.
Absolutely, because it's not only that you're attracting vendors and customers, but you're attracting people on your team who are going to represent your brand in the same way that you are.
Yeah.
There is no downside to the things we've talked about so far. At
No,
least not in my world.
no, I do not see any downside either.
I'm glad to know that we're aligned on that, Jeff. I'm not surprised by it, but I'm glad to know that we are
Yeah.
aligned in it.
Well, and I think at times when people hear emotional intelligence, you think squishy.
Well, we're going to talk about that next week.
Yeah.
Because
And
next week we're talking about it doesn't just mean being nice.
yeah.
But
And
yeah,
I think that goes into it next week, but the skills aspect of it, yes, it is a kind of soft skill, but it is really important. And it's not, the squishy, sit around in a circle, hold hands, and sing kumbaya. That sometimes it is the image that people get when you talk about this, and that's not what it is.
not remotely, because one of the things that we're going to talk about in just a minute is conflict management. That is not squishy. That is not sitting in a circle and singing kumbaya, because one of the definitions of sitting in a circle and singing kumbaya is not acknowledging that there are places where there's conflict.
Yep.
So yeah, absolutely. So we will get there, but that is a really good point. That whole squishy thing, no, this is not squishy stuff. Achievement orientation is not squishy. We're trying to go somewhere.
Yep.
And we're being really intentional about doing that, but we're doing it in a positive way. And we're recognizing that the way to do that is by being emotionally aware, but not beating people over the head about emotions.
Yeah.
That really does not help anybody, including the person who has the negative emotions they need to deal with.
Yeah.
But that being said, so the first set of 5 things that we just talked about are part of self-awareness and self-management. So there's the self-focused side of emotional intelligence. And then there's the other focused side. And first there's 2 parts that are within the realm of social awareness. And social awareness talks about empathy and organizational awareness. We've been talking about organizational awareness left, right, and in the middle today, haven't we,
Yep.
Jeff?
That we have.
Know your company, know your people, know your vendors. You have to, and understand how all those things work together. That whole balance board thing is all a part of emotional awareness. Sorry, organizational awareness. That balancing act of how that all fits together, how all those stakeholders have to be what is the word for it? How the needs of all the stakeholders have to be interrelated and woven together. That's what I wanted to say. That would not come to me.
No, that is, I think that is where all this stuff starts to come together.
Yeah.
It's almost like it reminds me of flying on an airplane. If the plane crashes, or I guess not if it crashes, but if the
It's a
oxygen,
little late at that point.
yeah, it's too late. But if the oxygen things come down, you put yours on first, which I kind of equate to the whole self-awareness,
Yeah,
right?
that's a really
Before
good
you
way to
help or serve others,
yeah.
in that situation. It's no different than what we're talking about here. It's really, I think it would be hard to jump into the second phase if you don't have the self-awareness, because how are you going to ever, make that connection?
That is so true because unless you know yourself, unless you have emotional self-awareness and are aware of where you are, in the whole grand scheme of things, then you don't have the ability to engage with other people and to have the organization. You may have a level of organizational awareness, but you don't have a full level of organizational awareness. Your picture is a very narrow band of what's really going on.
Yeah.
Jumping on the bandwagon again of the person that you talked about last week. Because
Yeah.
it's just so lovely to beat this person up because we don't know them. Well, I
Yeah.
don't know them.
You don't know them. No one knows. Well, yeah, you don't know them. I know them.
I know you do. You worked with them, and trust me, I
Yes.
have worked with people of
Oh
that
yeah.
ilk. We've all worked with somebody like that. However, where the heck was I going with this? Oh, that person had a very narrow band of understanding, not only self but others, or he or she wouldn't have acted like
Yeah.
that. And just for the record, there are both men and women who act like that, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
here we are. Um, but the other skill besides organizational awareness that comes in on social awareness is empathy. And I want to read um, Beth, no, not Beth, Brene Brown's definition of empathy from her book, Atlas of the Heart. This is the absolute Bible of emotional definition. It's fabulous. So if you're somebody who really wants to dig into this stuff, go get Atlas of the Heart. I'm a huge Brene Brown fan to begin with, but still. Um, she says empathy is a tool of compassion, and compassion is feeling for the other person. We can respond empathically only if we are willing to be present to someone's pain. If we're not willing to do that, it's not real empathy. So, being aware of your own emotions and having emotional self control, but also being able to recognize and understand the emotions of another, that's what empathy is.
Yeah.
Empathy is being willing to be with that person in that space. And there are some other writers that we'll dig into as we move forward on this around what empathy is and how we practice that. That there are some amazing skills out there that different people are teaching around empathy that can be absolutely invaluable for a business owner or a leader in leading their company and building their team and engaging with the full range of their stakeholders. So
Oh, I'm excited to hear more.
I'm
See,
glad.
you're
That's a good thing because this is.
selling the future ones.
I'm sorry.
I said you're selling the future ones.
I am. I am selling a lot of future ones. And just for the record, we're probably out. This probably will take us all the way through the summer to dig fully into all this stuff. There is a lot around this. And as you can tell, I really groove out on it. So there you go. Then there's the final domain is relationship management. And in that, there are 5 skills or competencies, depending on what word you want to use for it.
Yeah.
The first one is influence. Now, influence can be used for good or for ill, but we are going to assume that we are using influence in a positive way. So if you have all of these self awareness and self management and social awareness competencies, then you can use them to influence your team, your vendors, your customers in a very positive way. So that is the first of, the 5. The second one is coaching and mentoring. And some people think that they're the same thing. They're not. Just for the record. Excuse me, a little soapbox moment
I was
here.
going to say, I can see your soapbox getting built up, and you're walking up the stairs to it. Preach, Rhonda, preach.
So very true. So coaching is asking good questions and helping the person discover for themselves the skills and abilities and the answers that they have within themselves. Maybe it's about identifying and understanding their own emotions, since we're talking about emotional intelligence here. Mentoring is sharing your experiences and how you've gotten from point A to point B in what you're doing, so that the other person can learn from it and possibly adopt your process, your experience, and be able to accomplish the same thing you've done. And
So,
that's really, both are very valuable skills. But here's the difference. Mentoring is do as I did it. Coaching is let me help you figure out how the best way is for you to do it. I don't know about you, but I am a person in the B category.
those aren't the same thing.
Are you asking me? Stop being a smart aleck.
I just wanted to see your facial expression, but that is probably the best definition I've ever heard, distinguishing between those two things. Because in all seriousness, I think people do get those things very mixed up.
They really do. It is fascinating, and when you have people who really don't fully understand the concept of coaching and they equate coaching and mentoring, there's just you can't break the their desire to believe they're the same thing. But coaching is not telling, and mentoring has a level of telling to it.
Yeah.
Like actually, mentoring is probably 3/4 telling. If you've got a good mentor, they will listen to where you are and what you're bringing to the table. But unfortunately, there's a lot of mentors out there who believe they need to just teach you how they did it.
Yeah.
And that's not how, no. Because no matter who you are, it's not going to work exactly the same for you because you don't have exactly the same skills or experiences.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. That's speaking of the soapbox. Excuse me while I just climb down for a little bit.
Well, welcome to Rhonda's TED Talk.
That's a thought.
Yeah. See, I'm just planting seeds for you.
Thank you. So nice of you, Jeff. And this is a kind of funny that the next one is conflict management. Not that there's any conflict in my thoughts about that or any passion about it. But obviously, conflict management is a really important part of emotional intelligence. That's one that many of us have to really work on because we were brought up, we learned all through our lives. Don't rock the boat. Don't go against what authorities tell you. Don't and if there is a conflict, oh for heaven's sake, don't raise your hand. Tall poppy syndrome. Don't put your head up because you'll get shot down. But conflict management, being able to say, you know what, we see this differently. How can we figure out a way forward? And how can we respect both sides of the conflict, but still be able to come to an outcome that's the best thing for the company, the organization?
Yeah.
Because that's really where you need to get to. And most likely, both sides have at least some level of value in what they're saying. Now, there might be times when, side A or side B is all wet and absolutely wrong. But that would be Michigan versus Ohio State. I'm just saying.
And we refer to that as the team up north, Rhonda.
That's true. TTUN. That's very true. Yeah, sorry. Oops. But we won't go there right now, will we?
No, we got a few months before all the M's get crossed out in town.
That's true. That's true. But they will be back again. There will be X's where there were M's at one point in time again, because that happens every year. We can count on it. Yes. We have 2 more to go, and we are at 30 minutes. So, I probably better wrap it up. Teamwork is our next competency. You cannot accomplish anything in a team, in a company, in an organization without having a team working together to accomplish the goal. Otherwise, why do you have people on your team?
Yeah.
And let's remember that every member of that team has a role, has something important they're contributing. That's why you brought them on the team. So allow them to contribute it. That's part of the whole relationship management, is freeing people up to do what it is that they need to do on the team so that you can do what you need to do on the team. Just saying.
Yeah.
And then our last competency or skill is inspirational leadership. Inspiring your people so that you can all move forward together is going to get you so much further, as opposed to the example we talked about last week of the person who decided that if I yell at people enough, they'll go where I want them to go.
Yeah.
Didn't work so well for that person, did it? Because they not only didn't get the people to go where they wanted them to go, that is just, I'm sorry, I can't go on without saying this because it's in my head. The beatings will continue until morale improves. That's basically what that kind of thought process is. That's so illogical. Inspiring people, helping them understand how they are contributing to the goal that you're all bought into, is going to get you so much further than being negative and telling people where they're wrong. Help them understand where they're doing things right and help them expand the rightness of what they're doing.
Yeah.
So now that we've gone through all that, this is where we are for today. There's a lot of skills. There's a lot of things that we can grow in our ability to do well. Lots of things. And there's something, it'd be really interesting to have people go through an exercise where they rated themselves on where they think they are on these things, and then have other people around them. So basically kind of do it as a 360. Yeah. I'd love to see a 360 with you on how we work together on this, where you evaluate me. I'm not going to say I'm going to evaluate you. I'm not going to put you in that position. I'm just saying it'd be really interesting to see what you said from that standpoint. I might learn a thing or two.
Well, and I think that this is where, this stuff is really important, to not just have the self-awareness, but to get feedback from others. So true.
Because it's not all how we see it. We see through a very, you see a rose-colored lens sometimes. Sometimes it's rose-colored. Sometimes it's very dark because we're very negative about ourselves. And somebody else might rate us higher than we rate ourselves. But in other places, what we think we're accomplishing is not what we're really accomplishing.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like what we want it to look like. Let's phrase it that way. But the only way to fix it is to know it exists.
Yeah.
So that's why that feedback is so important.
It is. No, this was a great week of discussion. And next week, I'm excited that it's talking about it's more than being, quote, nice.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to our continued discussions on this topic.
Yep. Just for the record, I hate the word nice because Yeah, it's just like it's a speaking of squishy, nice is a squishy word and it doesn't get us where we want to go. So prepare yourself for next week when we talk about it not being just nice.
I like it. It's a
Okay.
good teaser for next week.
Absolutely. We will see you, knock on wood, technology agreeing with us at 12:15 next Monday.
Yes, that we will. Have a good week.
Take care.